Spencer, we're going to focus on Shelton now, weekly at this time, sponsored by our community credit union. We get a great chance to talk with some of the community leaders in the city of Shelton. Mike Fiola, Darrin, Moody from the police department. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
What's going on here? I saw some notes out from you about some enhanced professional standards reports. You guys are looking into the new year.
We've implemented a lot of different programs in the last 4 years. And we were just talking about it's been 4 years, and it's been great. We're having a good time. And now we're dialing it in and getting some details on all of those programs. We've become a much more professional organization in the last several years.
Okay.
And with the help of Captain Fiola over here, he's taken on the accreditation.
Hold on a second here. Sorry, Chief. We're having some technical difficulty. I'm having a hard time hearing you this morning. Let me try. Let's do a quick break. We'll come right back. This is an important conversation to have here. All right, good morning to you. Daybreak show here continues. Sorry about that. Getting some technical difficulties in, and let's try this again. Morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Still, there we go. Try again.
Good morning.
There we go. Got to get some
I feel
new
like Robin
equipment.
Williams with the Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah,
Is that what I should be doing?
yeah. Just
Got a
start
hot
yelling.
mic.
People will hear you from outside. All right, get that one microphone a little closer to you then, and let's start again. The professional standards report, something the city of Shelton and the police department looking to become accredited. What does that mean for the police department and for the citizens?
It's different tools. It's a transparency tool. Number one, it pretty much tells everybody what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's out there. There is no secret squirrel stuff hidden away anywhere. And in addition to that, it just recognizes that you're a professional organization, that you've taken the steps to be a professional police organization, and that you'll continue to do so with accountability.
In the 4 or 5 years now that you've been here, you have worked very hard on developing a good mission and values statement. How does that tie in line with the requirements from where you would get this accreditation?
Well, Captain Fiola has worked very hard in the last year to make sure that what we do falls within our core values. Everything we do that falls within that, from our policies to the accreditation to just our day-to-day activities. It's the end of 18 coming into 19, and we have our Officer of the Year and Employees of the Year, and even trickling down to the line level folks, they submitted all those nominations, and all of them would say in there, this follows under this core value, or this follows under our leadership rules, this follows under this. So I think, like I said, it just makes it a much more professional organization. You feel very comfortable knowing that you got the best practices in place, you're applying all of your policies and procedures correctly and the laws, and it helps us in the long run.
Captain, let's talk about 2018, some numbers here. You were telling us off the air as we're getting ready for this, the number of calls were going up, yet the use of force reports were going down. That's a good note there.
Yeah, I think so too. So kind of to echo what the chief was saying, it's all about transparency. We want the community to know what we're doing at all times for their department. So some of the main things we look at is our number of use of force for all the calls that we use. And use of force can be anything from going hands-on to lethal shoot, something like that. But in the city of Shelton, our calls actually went up. We were almost 14,000 calls for service.
Wow. For
a 20-officer agency.
And that's about 3,000 more than we've handled every year for the last 4 years.
3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 more. So what I did at the end of the year is basically I'll take that number and I'll look, okay, so out of those calls, how many times did we use force? And the use of force went down. What that tells me is that our training's working. Every officer does policy training. Every officer now does monthly Police One Academy e-learning on de-escalation, use of force, case law. It tells me the officers are doing the right things for the right reasons. And even though we're having an increased call volume, the officers are doing a better job of talking people down because the use of force went down.
When you look at the use of force there, and where does that determination come from? Does it come from the citizen at the end of the spectrum there, or is it part of the report for the officers, or how does that determination? I know you mentioned a couple ways, but how does that get into the report?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's part of the main police narrative anytime that we go hands-on and use force. That being said, we require officers to do an extra report. We call it a use of force report, which details all the specifics of the incident, the time, the location, factors like alcohol, drugs, pre-attack indicators, pre-attack statements, injuries, and things like that. So we can analyze it at the end of the year and figure out if we have a training deficiency or if we need to increase in a certain area. The good thing was, in looking at the use of force, they're all appropriate. I mean, the problem with police work is you're dealing with the variables are humans, right? Mm-hmm. So it's undetermined. Like you're dealing with drunks, people that are high on drugs, high on meth, and sometimes we just have to use force. And even though it might not be pretty, it is what it is, and it's what we have to do. But we need to make sure that we document it appropriately and provide those facts to our citizens to let them know that, hey, these are the circumstances of why we did it, how we did it, and how it falls in line with our training and policies.
If there is a use of force that happens, then what's the organization or department that looks at that? It's not within the Shelton Police Department, it goes outside?
No, it is. The only time you have an outside entity look at something, like if you're under like a consent decree, which we are not. Now, how it works is we send our supervisors to force investigation classes for supervisors, so they can look at the case, look at the scenario, and make sure that it falls within the law, that it was necessary and reasonable, and then we analyze it on an admin level to make sure that it's good to go. If something is not right, or if there's substantial injuries, like if there's let's say for instance there's use of force where there's like a broken bone, someone gets hurt, we would usually have an outside agency do an investigation on that, just to make sure that we're within the law and within policy.
Yeah, and use of force, like the captain said, can be anything. He talked about broken bones. That's the rarity. I mean, use of force can be simply, hey, I don't want to go to jail, and we have to take your hand and put it behind your back. That's a use of force, and we document that as such. Anytime somebody's resisting, and you have to use force to overcome it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're dragging people through the streets.
Right.
This is, like I said, every time that you have to use any kind of force other than just handcuffing, it's documented. And through this accreditation with WASPIC, they'll be going through all of these files. There'll be outside auditors coming in, probing our police department, telling us, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and going through that. And 3-4 years ago, we had what's called a LEMAP, a Loaned Executive Management Program, come in and do an audit of the police department shortly after I got here. And they noted all of these things that we would need to do to reach accreditation level, and we're at that point now. So
the accreditation, it's not just handed out to all departments. What's the number throughout the state that has this accreditation, and what then, just another feather in the cap, another perhaps hiring benefit for people? If they look at the Shelton Police Department, they understand that this is kind of a good culture, there's a good base of information?
Yeah, so the accreditation it's through the Washington State Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. It's a voluntary program, and like the chief said, it's basically like an open book. We're saying, hey, come check us out. Check this. They provide you with, I think, like 138. They have a lot of standards, and you have to prove that you have a policy in place for that standard, and that you train it properly, and that you're doing it, like to look at our reports and things like that. So in the state of Washington, there's only 22% of law enforcement agencies that are accredited. So yeah, it's a little bit of a feather in the hat, and it's saying, hey, we recognize what good law enforcement should look like based on certain standards, and we're going to do it. And that's why we're putting this in place. And thanks, Chief Moody, because when I was promoted, I told him this is a project I want to do. He was all for it. We got the approval of our city administrator, the commission, the mayor. We're all on the same page that we want the best police department we can have, even if it's a small agency.
With this accreditation, is there an increase in kind of public interaction or citizen overview? Is that another part of it, or
not really? So we already have we're already there, if that makes sense. WASPIC doesn't require you to have citizen review boards or things like that, but when we do our hiring, when we do our promotions, we include the citizens in our community and business members in everything that we do. If we were to bring them on, well, yeah, I mean, if there's a scenario where they're going to be looking over something, they'd have to be properly trained, educated on the law, and how police work goes into play.
So as you work towards this, then goals for this year, where and how long will this process take?
So I started this in mid-2018. So we were assigned a WASPIC mentor. So we have that, and we are just about ready to have our mock, which means 10 evaluators will come from outside agencies and pour over the stuff. And once we get the green light on that, then we'll do the actual assessment, which is a couple days. It's pretty intensive. They're at the office, and they're going through everything.
So the sheriff's office is another accredited, Mason County Sheriff's Office.
Right. So I actually I've got a lot of help from Under Sheriff Travis Adams, because they're accredited, and they're up for their reaccreditation in 2019. Because every 4 years you have to reaccredit.
Oh, so they're working on it.
So they're working on it. So we're both working on it at the same time, and I think it speaks pretty highly of our county for the level of law enforcement that our citizens get.
Yeah.
There's a lot of counties and agencies that the agencies aren't accredited. It's not that they're doing anything wrong, but we're willing to stand up and say, hey, take a shot at us, take a look at us. We think we're doing the right things.
It also does well for professional development, because a lot of it falls under supervision, leadership, etc. I mean, Captain Fiola now, when he completes this process, WASPIC will be calling him, saying, okay, we want you to go help these other agencies do the same project that you've done from the ground up. And some of the stuff, like you said, we're there, but some of the stuff even surprises us. They will come up and say, do you have this in place? And it's something you never even thought of, that you think, wow, we really don't have an outline for that. Now we have to create one.
So just a little more transparency, able to let the citizens know everything's good and truly above board if you get this accreditation.
And we put out an annual report every year which has most of that information in it. This is just a professional standards report that adds to that.
Sure.
That will give more information out there and tell people, I mean, it's everything from bias-based policing. Who are you arresting? To what are they being arrested for? When are they being arrested? How many citations? All of those type of things that come out.
Wow. Well, it's going to be exciting to follow along with this and find out some more.
If there's one thing I can add, and that the chief and I get the spotlight for the program and things like that, but it's not us.
Sure.
It really is the officers, and these guys and gals have been getting policies crammed down their throat, training crammed down their throat, in addition to their workload.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. Nobody's whined. They take it. They appreciate the training that they're getting, and like I said, I can't thank them enough, because they're the ones that make our agency. It's not him and I. We literally just kind of hold the boat afloat, and they're doing the work. So it's really them.
Captain Fiola, Chief Moody, good to see you guys. Thanks for coming in. The Focus on Shelton this week, every week, brought to you by our community credit union.